what it would feel like to discover an entire community of people gone without a trace. Not a single body, no sign of struggle, just emptiness where life once thrived. Welcome back to Mysteries Uncovered. I'm your host, and today we begin our journey into one of America's oldest and most baffling mysteries, the lost colony of Roanoke Island. If you enjoyed our previous investigations into Poveglia Island and Skinwalker Ranch, this 3-part series will take you even deeper into the unknown. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss episodes 2 and 3, where we'll explore the competing theories and reveal the latest evidence about what might have happened to these vanished settlers. The year is 1587. The place, a small island off the coast of what is now North Carolina. A group of 115 English colonists arrived to establish the first permanent English settlement in the New World. Men, women, and children, families hoping to build new lives on distant shores. Their leader was John White, an artist and friend of Sir Walter Raleigh. Imagine the hope in their hearts as they stepped onto these wooded shores. Can you picture it? The wooden ships anchored in the harbor, colonists unloading supplies, preparing shelters, dreaming of prosperity in this new land. But establishing a colony is never easy, and food supplies were dwindling. Tensions with local Native American tribes were growing, and the settlers needed more supplies from England to survive. John White had no choice. He had to return to England for provisions and reinforcements. His own daughter and granddaughter, the first English child born in America, Virginia Dare, were among those he left behind. He promised to return within 3 months, but history rarely follows our plans, does it? Just as White set sail for England, war erupted between England and Spain. Queen Elizabeth I commandeered all available ships to fight the Spanish Armada. White was trapped in England, unable to return to his family and his colony. For 3 long years, he fought desperately to secure passage back to Roanoke. Can you imagine his anguish? Lacking his daughter, his granddaughter, his friends, all waiting for supplies that never came. Finally, in 1590, 3 years after he left, John White returned to Roanoke Island. What he found, or rather, what he didn't find, would become one of history's most enduring mysteries. The colony was empty. It's completely abandoned. Every single settler, all 115 men, women, and children, had vanished without a trace. Their homes had been dismantled, not destroyed. It didn't appear that there had been a violent attack. The colonists had apparently left deliberately, taking their belongings with them. But where did they go, and why? White searched desperately for clues. And he found one. Carved into a wooden post at the entrance to the settlement was a single word, Croatoan. On another tree, he found the letters C-R-O carved into the bark. Before White had left, he and the colonists had agreed on a secret code. If they were forced to leave the settlement, they would carve their destination into a tree. And if they left under duress or attack, they would carve a cross alongside the name. There was no cross. And just this mysterious word, Croatoan. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, now known as Hatteras Island, home to the friendly Croatoan tribe. Had the settlers moved there? White desperately wanted to sail to Croatoan to find out, but a massive storm was brewing, threatening to wreck his ships. His crew refused to stay any longer. They were low on supplies and feared being stranded themselves. Despite White's pleas, they set sail for England. John White never returned to America. He never learned what happened to his daughter, his granddaughter, or any of the colonists. And he died years later in England, his heart heavy with unanswered questions. And so began the enduring mystery of the lost colony of Roanoke, 115 souls who stepped off the pages of history, leaving behind nothing but that single, tantalizing clue, C-R-O-A-T-O-A-N. But what does it mean? Were they taken? Did they leave voluntarily? Did they integrate with Native American tribes? Were they killed by Spanish soldiers patrolling the coast? Or is there a more sinister explanation? What would make an entire settlement of people disappear so completely that 400 years of searching has failed to find definitive proof of their fate? The mystery of Roanoke has captivated historians, archaeologists, and amateur sleuths for centuries. Some believe they've solved it, but have they really? Let's examine the historical context of this disappearance. The late 16th century was a time of great uncertainty in the New World. European powers were competing for territory and resources. Native American tribes were grappling with these strange newcomers invading their lands. Disease, hunger, and conflict were constant threats. The Roanoke colony was not the first attempt at settlement in the area. An earlier military expedition in 1585 had already created tension with local tribes. After those soldiers abandoned their post due to food shortages, Roanoke was meant to be a fresh start, a true colony with families and hopes for permanence. But consider this, the colonists arrived late in the growing season. They had limited farming experience, they were dependent on supplies from England and trade with Native Americans. When White left for England, did he already sense the precariousness of their situation? Think about the mindset of these settlers, ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances. What would you do if supplies ran out? If friendly relations with neighboring tribes deteriorated? If Spanish ships were spotted off the coast? Historical records tell us that 1587 to 1590 saw one of the worst droughts in 800 years in the region. Tree ring studies confirm this devastating climate event. Without rain, crops would fail. Fresh water would become scarce. Survival would become increasingly difficult. Did starvation drive them to desperate measures? Were they forced to abandon their settlement and seek help elsewhere? And consider the word Croatoan again. If they relocated to live with the Croatoan tribe, why have archaeological excavations on Hatteras Island found limited evidence of English settlement? Or perhaps we're looking in the wrong place entirely. Some historians believe the colonists attempted to return to the site of the previous settlement at Chesapeake Bay, a location that was actually their original intended destination before their ship's captain refused to take them further. Could they have traveled 50 miles inland to what is now the Chowan River? Records from the Jamestown colony in 1607, 20 years later, mention reports of Europeans living with inland tribes. But if they survived and integrated with Native Americans, why was no definitive contact ever established with later English settlements? The disappearance became America's first real mystery, a story that haunted the European imagination. It delayed further colonization attempts and created a lasting cultural impression that the New World was a place of danger and mysticism. Even today, the word Croatoan has taken on an almost supernatural significance in popular culture, used in everything from horror stories to song lyrics as a symbol of inexplicable disappearance. But the real story, the human story, is about 115 men, women, and children who ventured across an ocean with dreams of a new life. Real people with names, faces, and hopes whose ultimate fate remains unknown. As we conclude this first episode, I want you to imagine standing where John White stood in 1590, the emptiness of the settlement, the silence where there should have been voices, the single word carved into a post. What would you have thought? Where would you have looked next? In our next episode, we'll dive deeper into the competing theories about what happened to the lost colonists. We'll examine the evidence for Native American adoption, Spanish attack, relocation, and yes, even some of the more unconventional explanations that have been proposed. Could DNA testing of local populations hold the key? What have recent archaeological excavations uncovered? And what does the latest historical research tell us about this centuries-old mystery? Join us for episode 2, where we'll investigate the theories that might explain the fate of the Roanoke colony. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. Until next time, remember, sometimes history's greatest mysteries are hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right person to uncover them. This is Mysteries Uncovered. Thank you for watching.